Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon and good evening, depending on wherever you're joining us this beautiful day. My name is Joshua Moses, and I'm super glad to have you join this session today. This is Dario Hackers. This is an initiative which tends to bridge the gap between cybersecurity starters and the industry experts. And today we are having another cybersecurity career talks by an amazing personality in the in the technological realm. So Anthony Sule is a digital security manager of the CcHub, as I have earlier stated, and he has worked around the continent from Egypt to Nigeria to Ghana, and he has built diverse and talented Pan-African team across West and East Africa. He has worked in Rwanda to build innovative digital security solutions. He has been a project manager, an amazing personality. In fact, I just met him recently, but he's a very accommodating somebody. Thank you so very much for joining us this beautiful day, sir. We hope we will learn a lot from you and tap from the wealth of experience that you're having.
Thank you, Joshua. It's such a pleasure to speak to this community. Thank you so much for reaching out. I'm happy doing this. Of course, thanks also to my friend Elizabeth that facilitated this happening. So my name is Anthony Sule. I'm joining you guys from Lagos, Nigeria. And I know we have just about an hour for this, so I'm just going. My talk is going to be brief actually, so that we have a lot of time to have like conversations and just really ask questions. And apologies, I have my hair wrapped up. My hair is going through a process and it's very unpresentable at the moment, so that's why I covered it up like that. All right, so I think I'll just share my screen and then can I start my presentation, Joshua? All right,
yes.
Fantastic. If at any point my internet is a bit unstable today, I don't know why. If at any point you can't hear me clearly, please just let me know. Joshua, I can't seem to share my screen because that's disabled.
I just enabled it right now, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. 1 second. Let me quickly do that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Okay, great. Let me just present this. So we'll be speaking on the topic that says beyond cybersecurity, exploring alternatives. And as I said, please just let me know whenever you can't hear me. Just let me know in the chat box. I'll try to be as audible as possible. But if at any point you can hear me clearly, just indicate in the chat box, and I will try to pitch or just check up with my network rather. So yeah, beyond cybersecurity, exploring alternatives. This is I thought it was a very interesting topic, to be honest. And I don't know if what Joshua heard that made him decide to give me this topic to speak about. But the truth is, it's a topic I really like because I think that there is a lot of stereotypes in the cybersecurity industry, in the InfoSec industry generally, especially amongst professionals. There are a lot of stereotypes. There are a lot of things that I think people just generally embrace and see as the only way, right, to do things. But it's usually not true. And the reason is because cybersecurity is such a big space that we're still scratching the very surface. In fact, globally, not just in Africa, we're still scratching the very surface of what we're doing. That we're not even at the point where we can say this is the way to do things, or this is the only way we can go about stuff. There are so many ways. There's so many ways, and there's so many things to think about. And so with this presentation, what I'm trying to achieve is basically just to let you know what alternatives you can explore, given your cybersecurity skills, right? The skills you already possess or what you're currently working on. What are some of the kind of career path you can go into or you can chase just with what's that's available to you beyond just the obvious, right? So here is a highlight of our talking points. We've done the introductions already, but yeah, I had that in my plan. We'll do some scene setting, and then we'll talk about Cycle of Competence, and then we'll look at hybrid and alternative roles in cybersecurity. And then we'll take time to ask lots of questions, and you can ask me generally, whether within the context of this presentation or just general questions. Someone is scribbling on the page. So here's a brief about me. So I basically help build innovative solutions and projects to protect businesses so that civil societies, individuals, individuals from threats and attacks. Currently, I'm the digital security manager at CcHub, as Joshua has introduced. So let's get into it. And I will start in terms of like scene setting. I would start with this. Okay, so I don't know who scribbled this on the screen, but it looks a bit kind of like spoiling my mood for me. Anyhow, but we'll start with this tweet that says, I saw this tweet in 2019 where the person posted it, and I thought it was really interesting, and I had to pull it back up just for this presentation. So last year, when I was grappling whether I wanted to keep practicing law, my husband gave me some really good advice, sharing today in case you need to hear it too. Ready? The person you were at 22 does not get to decide who you have to be for the rest of your life. I thought this is a profound message, right? A really profound message. I don't know how many of us here are probably in school studying cybersecurity science. Like I graduated from FUT Mina as well, and I studied cybersecurity science. And I don't, for some of you, you probably apply because when I went into school, the cybersecurity departments then at the school was just about 2 years old, or yeah, 2 years old. So we're like the third set. So many people didn't even know about the course cybersecurity. So it happened that, you know, the way it is in Nigeria, where you apply for a course and they give you anything to study. That was what happened for me and most of my colleagues, or most of my mates rather. So we applied for probably something different. Personally, I applied to study electronics and computer engineering because my dream then at 16, 17 was to work in a car assembly, right? Assemble cars and work in automation and things like that. That was my dream. Then I was pushed to cybersecurity. But of course, you have to go to school and you have to learn. It proved to be very interesting at some point. And what I'm trying to say here in essence is getting into a field like that, or getting into cybersecurity generally, sometimes for you, maybe for some of you, it's a thing of chance, right? You came into this field as a thing of chance, or maybe you were pushed into it the same way I was pushed into it. But then this is like 3 years after, and you're not getting the hang of it, right? It's interesting. Cybersecurity, there's money to be made. It's super interesting. It's futuristic and all of that. But maybe when you sit down by yourself and just allow yourself to reflect, you're seeing all of the great things that your friends and maybe colleagues are doing, but you're not just feeling this thing, right? This might not be the greatest way to start a presentation, but I'm especially when I'm seeing that I'm a cybersecurity professional. But I'm just here to let you know that you don't have to do it. And I think this is the essence of the streets which I'm sharing. You don't have to do it. You probably got into it because yes, it was the happening thing the time you heard of it, or it's still the happening thing. There's so much going on. And just like the fact that you'll be able to earn good money from it, but you're into it now and you're not feeling it, right? And I think two things I want to say here is, one, you absolutely do not have to do it. And I'll give you a strong reason why. And the second reason is, which I'm going to address the two reasons in my presentation. The second reason is more about finding a sweet spot for yourself where some of your peculiarities can shine through in cybersecurity generally, right? Because again, as I said, cybersecurity is so broad that I think we're still scratching at the very surface, right? So what I'm trying to address with this tweet, just setting the scene, is basically to just let you know that if you've been doing this for a while, if you've been in the industry for a while, and you think absolutely that this is not for you, I'm here to let you know that it's okay to move on, right? Don't be ashamed. It's okay to move on. And I'm going to use myself as an example going forward in some examples further down the line. But I'm just letting you know that the person, what you decided to do 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or the person the course you decided to study at 17 shouldn't define your life for the rest of it, right? You can choose to go into something else. I will end with this. So at some point, so I have this little friend. She and her twin sister, they started a YouTube channel, I think 2 or 3 years ago when they were in like 200 level or 300 level. And they had some good followership and were producing like really good content. But then I think by her 4th year in university, and she was going for an internship. So there's a lot of things. She had like new priorities. She's a mechanical engineer, and she's working with this this company currently. I've forgotten the name, but basically she's working with a company where she has to assemble like machine parts, and she's enjoying that. And for her, the period where she was producing YouTube content was just a phase for her. She enjoyed it and she gave her best there. She doesn't have to do it forever. Many friends are saying, oh, we like it, keep doing it, but she doesn't feel it anymore. She wants to focus on mechanical engineering now, which is a new tick for her. And I think the same thing applies when it comes to any other thing, actually, right? There could be a phase where there's something you absolutely enjoy. And some things could just be phases. You can just stick to that phase, do it really well, and move on to something else, or just extrapolate some of the knowledge and experience and skill you have from that into something new, right? So that you can have something much more hybrid. And I'm going to talk about that further down the line. But basically, just said something here that cybersecurity, as great as it is, it requires you to have such mental stability, because it's going to, permit me to use the word, it's going to, okay, let me not use that word, but it's intense. It's going to demand a lot of you that it doesn't make sense to just do it because other people are doing it. And that's something I just want to lay here. Here's a quote from a platform I was reading recently about mental health for cybersecurity professionals. In a 2019 Symantec study of nearly 3,000 security professionals, almost 2/3 of cybersecurity professionals reported that they have considered quitting their jobs or leaving the industry because of stress and burnout. This has dangerous implications for every company that relies on these first responders to keep their data and businesses safe. And I think this is something really important to point out. And I know for many of us on the call, we're probably young, we're still like entry level, and maybe this is not something that you'll be thinking about. Maybe for you, you just want to get a job and start the career first before we talk about burnout much more later. And I totally understand with that, but I'm just trying to let you know that if you're thinking even mid-term to long-term, the security industry is one where you have to ensure that you in a way have your heart or your head in it, right? Because if you're just doing it for the mere sake of doing it to make money, you're going to get burnt out super quickly. Because it's mentally it's going to demand a lot of you. Physically, it's going to demand a lot from you, right? Even beyond just even what Symantec did in the US and in the West, I see a lot of friends, people I follow on Twitter, people in the industry who tweet about, you know what, they can't just wait so they can't wait for Friday. I know it typically is the usual thing where people just can't wait for Fridays to just close their laptop and not do any work again. But I think it's a different ballgame entirely when people just can't wait to go off work, right? I know we live in a world where passion is not the thing, right? Just do whatever brings money. And I'm a subscriber to that as well, right? Optimize yourself to be able to make good money, because I believe humans, with the brain we have, we're able to do anything. But at the same time, if you can simply do anything, why not just do something where your skills, your passion are very interwoven or aligned with what you're doing? That's what I'm trying to preach here. Because the truth is, if you do not have your head or your heart in it, and you're just doing it for the mere sake of doing it, you're going to get burnt out really fast, right? And you come to a point where you're probably at 26 or 27, considering, you know what, I don't want to do cybersecurity anymore. I want to do something else. And again, I just hope we get the fact that I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to let you know that have your head on your heart in it, because cybersecurity is going to demand a lot from you. Here is something I want us to read. Sorry, let me see if I can move this part of my screen. Okay, yes, I can. So here is something I saw. There's this article, a 2013 article Warren Buffett and a few other professionals, investors, big time investors, talked about playing in your circle of competence. And I just want to highlight that here. Let me read it out. So the article talked about something which is really important, and it's a question: where should we devote our limited time in life in order to achieve the most success? You have to figure out where your own aptitudes are, what your own aptitudes are, sorry. If you play games where other people have the aptitudes and you don't, you're going to lose. And that's as close to certain as any prediction that you can make. You have to figure out where you've got an edge, and you've got to play within your own circle of competence. If you want to be the best tennis player in the world, you may start out trying and soon find out that it's hopeless, that other people blow right by you. However, if you want to become the best plumbing contractor in Belgium, that is probably doable by 2/3 of you. It takes a will, it takes the intelligence. But after a while, you will gradually know all about the plumbing business in Belgium and master the art. That is an attainable objective, given enough discipline. And people who could never win a chess tournament or stand in center court in a respectable tennis tournament can rise quite high in life by slowly developing a circle of competence, which results partly from what they were born with and partly from what they slowly developed through work. I thought this was a very profound statement by Charlie Munger, a very profound statement. And it's basically saying that in a world where you can be anything, it makes sense to play in your circle of competence, in a place where the skill or the talent you were born with can closely align with something you're willing to develop. So for instance, cybersecurity is something that you want to work on, right? But the way people talk about bug bounty on the internet or talk about penetration testing or malware analysis, they're just not your thing. And I'm saying this from experience because starting my career at CcHub was my first cybersecurity. It's still my only cybersecurity job, even though I've done like some consulting on the side. But starting up at CcHub, I had to do everything, right? When I joined as an associate, I had to do everything. I had to do security assessment. I had to do malware analysis sometimes. I had to do everything, right? Because the units then, the practice then at CcHub was still developing. So I had to do everything. My hands had to be dirty. But even while I was doing these things, I was very sure this is not what I wanted to do, right? One of the most basic things about me, I feel like if you were able to unearth me, right, like remove every piece of me piece by piece, at the very basic, the two things you find Jesus, and then you would find a writer. Because at the core of it, I love writing, I love fiction, I love I just love fiction and I love writing. So I remember when I was in school, by third year, and this is just a excuse me, this is just a way to just give examples, right? I did a 5 years course, cybersecurity at Footmina is a 5 years program. By my first year, we had to do like everything. By second year, you then have to start getting into the beat of cybersecurity gradually. By my third year, this is just a confession. I graduated tutu, by the way. Let me just put it out there. I graduated tutu, and to be honest, for me, I didn't want to do cybersecurity after graduation, but that aside. When I was in school, by my third year, when I go to the library, I'll probably pick I'll just go with a novel or something, or I'll pick a book on Greek mythology or psychology, written about Sigmund Freud and those people. I was much more interested in those things because it enlarged my imagination. And I love the part of fiction I like the most is a branch called speculative fiction, where you have to reimagine the world as it is and create like alternate universes and things like that. One of my favorite books of all time are the A Song of Ice and Fire series, which was adapted to become Game of Thrones. Those are my favorite books of all time, and I've read them like 3 times. And one of the reasons why I like that book is because there's such a difference in the way they imagine the world, right? Some of the things we just go through life and just 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. There's a road here. This is a cup and all of that. I like works of fiction that help me reimagine the way the world is, and those are the kind of things I write as well. And so even though when I come to CcHub and I was doing some of this security analysis and doing all of this work, that part of me still held sway, right? I was still very much interested in fiction. But I think the most beautiful part of my work is the fact that I was able to come to a point where I could bring my imagination in the way I see the world, in the way I think the world should be, into the work that I do. And I think that's the most beautiful part of my work. Because I don't just birth projects or just try to build innovative solutions. I try to imagine how those things will play out in the real world, right? Not just in the way we currently have the world, but if the world were different, if the world could be in a certain way, how could the solution play out? And I think currently I do very little. My position as digital security manager, I still get to get my hands dirty and do like security assessment or due diligence for our portfolio companies and things like that. But very often what I do is engage and communicate with our partners and build projects and try to ensure that we're able to get more people involved in the entire life cycle of security as much as possible. And I could do this for the rest of my life, right? Even though I still have a strong passion to go back and writing, which is like a lifelong goal for me to write and then get published and things like that. But I could do what I'm doing for the rest of my life because I've been able to find that sweet spot where my love for imagination and creating things meets cybersecurity. And I think this is what this article is trying to address. The fact that you could find that sweet spot where your passions and the things you can do closely align with what you are willing to develop, right? And I just want us to have that at the back of our mind. So talking about the cycle of competence, let me just quickly explain it like a cybersecurity term. Now, the cycle of competence is basically so pick cybersecurity, for instance. There are so many things. As I said, cybersecurity is such a broad industry that so much is ongoing. There are so many roles, there's so many career paths that you can undertake and things like that. But you would find that amidst all of this, there are actually sweet spots where I don't know who's scribbling again, but you would find that amidst all of this, there are actually sweet spots where you can actually find your competence shine through, right? And I think this is what we're going to address in the next phase of my presentation. But what I'm trying to say here, in essence, when it comes to like the cycle of competence, there's a spot or there's a place in the grand scheme of things where your ideas, your originality will shine through. And in those spaces, you're much more likely to become a thought leader or an expert in that area. I'm going to give a very good example. I could decide today and say I want to become, I know very little about bug bounty and bug hunting, right? It's not an area of strength for me. I could decide today and say, I want to learn bug hunting, right? And do that for, say, 2 years. And the truth is, whatever it is you dedicate time and effort to, you would definitely learn. I could dedicate, say, 2 years and say, I want to learn bug hunting, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to be good at it. But the truth is, I will never be as good as somebody for whom bug hunting is a passion or is what they love to do. They just want to sit on their computer and find bugs and find vulnerabilities with systems all day long. I could never be as good as someone like that, no matter how hard I try for the next 2 years, because it's not my area of expertise. It's not my cycle of competence, right? And all of it is still cybersecurity, but I could never be as good as that. But if you want to talk about like building innovative solutions, right? How do we reimagine security solutions in a way that would get everybody involved, in a way that protects people? I could continue to do what I do and become the top and the top and the top of the 1% of my field across the world. And that's the simple truth, because that's my sweet spot. That's my area of competence. So what the circle is just letting you know that. So see this big circle as cybersecurity, right? And you can fill it with different things inside. You can fill it with pen testing, you can fill it with malware analysis, you can fill it with a lot of things. But then there's a small circle where you know that if you play in this space, then there's no limiting what you can do with your life. There's no limiting the level you can get to. And that's simply the cycle of competence. And it calls for introspection for everybody on this call, right? You just have to ask yourself, what or where is my cycle of competence? You have to define it for yourself and then build your career around it. And so I'm going to talk about different areas of security and how this cycle of competence talk plays in. And in security, it's very, very, very much a thing of hybrid roles, right? When it comes to talking about cycle of competence. So if I tell you that, oh, there is life beyond pen testing or malware analysis or security engineering or things like that, then what can I do in security again, right? And I'm here to let you know that there is so much in cybersecurity that we're not even talking about. That is top security, important security beyond the obvious to our minds. right? And they are mostly hybrid or alternate. They are mostly hybrid roles that you can consider as alternatives to what you currently know in security. And I'll give you a very basic example. So when you fuse law and business risk and add security to it, then you talk about governance, risk, and compliance. Some of us already know about this. This is an area of security that's very critical to organizations. When organizations want to, we have different laws and different policies that affect organizations, from PCI DSS to GDPR, NDPR. Businesses have to comply with those laws, right? Because there are fines. If they don't comply to them, they could lose revenue, they could get fined and things like that. And this is security. So for you, maybe you enjoy law, you like to read like legal tomes and things like that, and you have like some knowledge of business and you're willing to like expand on that, then governance, risk, and compliance might be the thing for you, right? You probably do not enjoy coding or enjoy playing in a very technical environment. This might be a thing for you. And I think I just want to say that we should try to do away with it. Don't let stereotypes affect you, because I know in the industry, so imagine you saying that you're a security professional, maybe a basic thing like maybe you can't use Splunk, then people will say, what kind of security are you doing? But I'm just trying to let you know that, say, do it with that mindset, right? Security is so broad that if we expect everybody to do the same thing, then there's so much we won't be able to do, right? There are people we need in governance, risk, and compliance, and we don't even have enough of them yet, right? So this might be something you want to consider. I'll talk about a few others. If you fuse product management and security, you're going to have product security. For me, this is probably one of the most interesting areas of security that people do not think about. And I love it so much. If this is something I'm actually probably going to build, maybe just for the sheer passion and love of it. Because this has to do with the entire process of building a product and then just fusing security in all of that life, in the entire life cycle, right? People want to, so when you build a product, and this is very closely tied to like the Internet of Things and the level of connectedness we're seeing in that space, right? When you're building products, when you're building solutions, so for security not to be an afterthought, right? Business is already thinking, how do we infuse security across the software development lifecycle, across the marketing process? Now, let me give you a typical example. I think, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, when the Nigerian government froze the account of what's it called, of some fintech organizations, of some fintech businesses rather, so RiseVest and the others. It was a thing of panic, right? Nigerians are very touchy with their money. So if you go on Twitter today and you hear that, oh, I'm trying to access my PiggyVest account and PiggyVest is not going through, in 10 minutes, the people that will withdraw their money from PiggyVest alone, right, will let you know that Nigerians are touchy with their money. And we're a poor country, if I can use that word. So forgive people when money is a big deal for them and they want to get the most of it, or when it's not working for them, they want to just get their money out and things like that. People panic when it comes to money. And product management plus security, it's involved in all of that process, right? How do you build solutions that ensure that security is not what you then do? You're not doing pen testing after you must have used the product. But even from the face of conceptualizing the idea, even from the face of, even to the face of marketing the product, how do you infuse security? So for Nigerians, for instance, if you're infusing security into the marketing of, say, a RiseVest, people are much more confident in you. And I just want to say here that beyond whatever is you know about security, cybersecurity is there to help businesses make money. Shikena, like final. Cybersecurity is there to help businesses make money. So it's either you're bringing in money in terms of like revenue with the cybersecurity solution or whatever it is you're doing, or you're helping the company conserve money, right, or not lose money. That's the essence of cybersecurity. Anything you think about, all the technical mumbo jumbos that we do, is basically to help the company make money or to preserve money so they don't lose money. So infusing security into like the marketing and all of that, and people don't panic because they are sure that you have the right solution. It's a mindset thing, right? So when people people do not trust your security solution, then when they hear anything, they panic and they withdraw their money. But when security is heavily built into the entire life cycle of a product development, then you have product security, and then people are able to better manage the kind of shocks and effect that comes with things that people talk about concerning a product. But I'm conscious of the fact that this hybrid and alternative roles are going to leave you with more questions than answers, and that's my goal here. I purposely did not include like big description of each of these hybrid roles, so that with the idea I'm giving you, you're able to research more into these roles and know better about them, especially if I say something that you think that this is probably something I would want to do. Something else, which I don't think enough people know or talk about, is public interest security. This is about 40% of the work that I do at CcHub. So when you fuse public interest and social justice and security, you have public interest security. Public interest security, you're basically talking about an area where you're much more invested in equality, in protecting at-risk organizations that are unable to protect themselves. You're invested in like internet freedom and what goes on in there. There's a lot going on, right? I'll take for instance in Nigeria, you find that there are a lot of organizations that are set up to keep the government in check, right? To ensure that there's transparency in governance and things like that. There are news media sites that publish investigations about maybe police brutality and things like that. I can tell you for free, because I've worked with a lot of these organizations. As I said, it's about 40% of the work I do at CcHub. I've worked with a lot of these organizations and they come under intense attacks. When you talk about attacks, it's not just about businesses that have money. There are organizations that you wonder, they don't have like money, quote unquote, but the work that they do is so critical to democracy, to equality in the society that they come under intense digital attacks. And that's what public interest security is about, ensuring that we're building and protecting a space where at-risk organizations who are focused in ensuring a free in a free society where human rights is entrenched and democracy is upheld and things like that, they are adequately protected. And let me shock you by saying that a lot of people are trying to get a share of the pie in enterprise security and things like that, which is fantastic. And people do not know about an area like public interest security, especially in Nigeria. I do a lot of training in this space. I do a lot of consulting. I do a lot of work with organizations across the continent. Most of the projects I do across these countries that Joshua mentioned earlier is actually public interest security space. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've made my company more than $1.7 million in revenue just by the work we do in public interest security, right? People do not know about this because it's not shiny, right? You're not working in the enterprise, you're not working with the likes of Paystack or working with the likes of RiseVest, who are notable good companies, right? These are enterprises, but there are organizations, right, who are unable to protect themselves, and there are organizations globally that are willing to pay top dollar to ensure that these organizations are protected and democracies are protected, right? I'm not going to talk too much about that. I would want you to, if this strikes a chord, not for the money, but for the fact that you're able to work towards the protection and the entrenchment of a free society, right? Probably not the right expression, but you're trying to ensure that, or you're very moved about equality. Maybe you're a feminist and you're very big on how to protect feminists and things like that, or you're an LGBT advocate. This is actually the space for it. There are lots of funding available to protect people in that space. In Uganda, for instance, the rights of LGBTQ people, it's so terrible that if you're found or if you're known to be a gay person or a lesbian in society, you could be stoned to death, right? This is not like 50 years ago or pre-democracy. This is actually like a 21st century country where they are still stoning people. How do you protect these people, right? How do you protect like their digital footprints and things like that so that they don't get attacked? And that's public interest security. Another one I want to speak to briefly is cybersecurity education. Now, with everything we do in cybersecurity, if the end users don't get the right dose of information or they're not trained properly, everything we do, all the technical things we do don't make sense, because at the end of it, it's people that are going to use a security solution or whatever it is that you're building or whatever it is that you're protecting, right? And if there's no right end user education, then something is broken in between. And you can very easily build a career as a cybersecurity education professional or a cybersecurity education expert. There are not a lot of people in this space. I don't know many people. There are, of course, people do training, but the fact that somebody who understands the inquiry-based learning is probably taught before, and you like the idea of teaching and passing on knowledge and able to help people grasp what you're doing. Now you have like a gift consider a field or a career path as cybersecurity education, right? There are not a lot of people in this space, and I think this is what I'm trying to highlight with this presentation. Most of these hybrid roles I'm bringing to you, there are not a lot of players in this space, and that's for the obvious reason that for some people it might just be that it's not shiny. For other reason is because they have to do so much work to get the kind of income or outputs they see. But if this is your passion, you very much quickly level up and make good money out of it. This is a very interesting one I found on the internet very recently. So cybersecurity, you could Google it. And this is basically just looking, and this is very closely tied to cybersecurity education. But when you talk about, when we talk about like security cultures in organizations or how people take security education, what is the reason why you will build a shiny product in security, train people on it, but they would rather not use it? There's something there. And this is interesting to me because I've grown up in psychology, reading a lot of psychology books and things like that. What is the reason? What is the human tendency that makes people to do things that are risky, right? Irrespective of whatever you've shown them or trained them about. Organizations are becoming much more security conscious, and they're building like security cultures and having like whole security units and things like that. That's going to be a mix of people who understand and are able to pass on security knowledge, understanding the behaviors around security initiatives and security training and things like that. And you need a cyber security person or professional. And if this is you, you probably never have to write a line of code in your life, or you probably never have to do like security assessment in your life, like technical security assessment. But you probably be working with people to gauge their psychology, understand their behavior with cybersecurity products, and you're able to then extrapolate that into the broader cybersecurity policy or whatever it is the organization is working with. And this is a vital role that we need across organizations. Cyber diplomacy. I'll very quickly say that I'd never heard the word cyber diplomacy until my best friend Elizabeth is on the call. She's the only person who does cyber diplomacy in Nigeria that I know, the only person. And she's had to do like a lot of travel to the US, speak at the United Nations, travel to different countries to speak about something like this. This is an area of security as well. But I'm telling you that with our experience, I only had cyber diplomacy because that was something Elizabeth was building into her career. And as I said, today, she's the only person who does cyber diplomacy in Nigeria that I know. And this is basically fusing diplomacy, policy, and governance together with security. Think about how new technologies are rapidly changing the way countries, the cyberspace in a country is, right? You have quantum computing coming into play, you have IoTs, you have a lot of things going on. And there's a new way that countries approach cyber warfare. There's a new way that countries view human rights, right? Human rights now is no longer about right to free speech and things like that. What are the rights of human beings online as well? And all of those interconnectedness about new technology, the rights of people, how the international relations, how do nation states govern their cyberspace and things like that. These are critical to national security. And if you fuse diplomacy and policy and governance and include security, you get cyber diplomacy and then the security aspect of it. And this is not something that enough people are talking about or getting into. And as I'm saying, these are just a few examples. There are a lot of roles that when you fuse some of the things that you currently know or you're passionate about and include security into it, you're going to have a bomb career because it's probably a frontier that not a lot of people are actually playing in, or a frontier where you can be like the first mover. If you know about the first mover advantage, when somebody gets into a market first with a product, there's a strong chance that the person is going to get a lot of sales, right? Because there are not a lot of players in that, then there's no other player in that space. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you. Most of these hybrid roles and alternative roles that I've shared, these are places where if you start building your career towards there, you'll very quickly come to like the top and engage with the people who are like at the very top of that industry, because there are not a lot of players. And again, I can use public interest security as an instance. I've done a lot of traveling to countries where, because there are not enough professionals, right? Very few public interest professionals, even across the world, in terms of security, let alone when you talk about like in country. In Nigeria, I could probably number the number of public interest professionals that there are when you go from country to country. So when you have to engage with civil societies and journalists and things like that, you look for the person who's available to do it. Whether the person is in a country far away, you have to look for the person to come and do the job for you. And that's what I'm saying, that there are hybrid roles that not a lot of people are playing in, that you can build a career for yourself as an alternative to typical things we know in cybersecurity. So that's the last of it. Quantum computing as well. Quantum security. If you fuse quantum computing and security, you get quantum security or cryptography. So if you're very interested in what this new technology is about, basically just understanding how to shape the future of security. And this is very vital because right now, the bedrock of cybersecurity, of course, is cryptography. Whether it's on the internet or with our devices. Quantum computing is threatening to destroy some of the cryptography algorithms as we know it today. And we need people who are able to build the future of cryptography using quantum technology to be able to protect the future of the internet and the future of our technology as well. So all of us cannot jostle for the same piece of the pie. There are so many, cybersecurity is so broad that if you begin to fuse your peculiarities and your proclivities and the things you would like to do, you will find that there's probably a space, a sweet spot for you where you can include security and become like one of the first movers, or just really be the top of the industry in no time. I know that was like a mouthful, but I'll field questions at this time.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of insight to digest and understand. I mean, this is just it. This is gold. This information is actually what we need, because majority of us don't even know the path to take, and that's the fact. We're not good practically, like writing zero. You can be developing exploit, and then security, being a security analyst, you need to work in an enterprise to be able to measure all the skills you have, right? But opening our eyes to these alternative goals will make the journey very easy and sweet for us. Because definitely doing what you love to, and then even earning from what you do is just a goal. It's the goal. Thank you so much, sir, for these insightful thoughts. I mean, I'm wow. So I wanted to rush into a job, but I think I'll take my time and think through it. Burnout is real. Um, Thank you so much, sir. So let me take some questions here. Let me see if there are any questions. So if you have any questions, you can just ask them now. All right, I think I have one. For cybersecurity education, do you advocate working with a platform, organization, or setting up your own platform? All right, so for this, I think what I understand from the question here is there really any certification one can take for these alternative roles? Like for your own area of interest, say public interest, security, are there any certification that is tailored towards this? Okay. You can unmute if you want to talk. You're mute, sir. Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. So good question. So I think you'll find certifications for GRC. I know there's certifications for that. But for public interest, no, not at all. Not at all. I'll give you a very, I don't have any certification, and I'm not saying this with pride. I should get one. I don't have a certification. And that's because with public interest security, it's basically understanding of the frameworks that exist to protect these organizations and these people. And I think the most popular framework when it comes to like security assessment is called SafeTag. I'll probably just put that in the chat box. So if you Google SafeTag, so the website I think is safetag.org. You would find so SafeTag is security auditing framework and evaluation template for advocacy group. So it's a security auditing framework that's used to protect businesses, protect at-risk organizations that are non-profits, right? Your understanding of that, understanding of the nuances in this space is much more critical. I've never seen a job in the public interest security, whether global or local or regional, that requires certification. So it's basically, so let me just be clear, right? And I think this is also going to be like an advice to especially people just trying to get in the industry. As I mentioned, when I joined CcHub, I had to do everything. And I think you should have that at the back of your mind. For entry roles, you might not be able to have, how do I describe it? You might not be able to have that particular role you're looking for, right? For entry roles. For entry roles, they might typically just want to be like a security analyst or a security associate or anything like that, right? So I think it's going to take a while for you to build to the point where you then now are operating in the area of your sweet spot. And the truth is, it's actually very important to have a basic foundation where you have all of the understanding and knowledge of all of these things. As I said, I did malware analysis, the forensic analysis, the security assessment when I started at CcHub. I don't have to do that again. But the knowledge and the skill I've built from that is helping me with whatever it is I'm doing right now. So even though you might have the goal of say you want to become a product security expert, right? And you already understand a lot of building software and understand how to some marketing concept and all of that. You're interested in that. It also makes a lot of sense to do all of the basic cybersecurity stuff like security analysis or pen testing and things like that. Get your hands dirty if you're starting your career, so that say 2 to 3 years after that, whatever you're building towards, you have that basic foundation that you can build on top of. But out of every hybrid role that I probably showed you there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, someone can correct me, but I think GRC is the only one. Let me quickly run through. But I think GRC is probably the only one where you need a certification. Quantum security, definitely not. Diplomacy and policy and governance, cyber diplomacy. So here's the thing, because of these roles are relatively new, there are no certifications around them. Most of them don't have certifications because how do you certify something that's just only getting started that we still need like a lot of innovation around, right? But you can let me know in the chat box. I think this one's going to be for Elizabeth if there are certifications around that. Psychology, cybersecurity, definitely no, there are no certifications. I think what will help here is if you probably have like a training already or a certification around psychology separately, then you can then bring that into security. But in terms of like cyber, like PSY, cybersecurity, there are no certifications. Which one? Cybersecurity education as well. I doubt there is. I have not seen any. And public interest security, I've said there are no certifications. With product management and product security, I think again, so the same way you can have like a product security certification, you can then bring that with your knowledge of security into the space. But in terms of like having a product security certificate, there's currently none.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. So the other question is, I think, which you actually answered. How do you convince these employees to give you this role? So you just have to get in as a starter, I think, and then work your way up. Thank you so very much, sir. Again, I don't know, sir, if we can actually, okay, I will ask him if we can get a slide. So, but this video will be uploaded to the YouTube channel if he gives the permission so that people that miss it can listen.
Sorry, Joshua, your voice is a bit low. Can you speak up a bit?
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
All right, cool. So the slides will be available if the speaker actually gives it to us, and then the video will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of Diary of Hackers if consent is given by the speaker, which I hope and trust that we will. So thank you so much, everybody. I don't want to take much of this time because we're actually ask for 1 hour. He's a very busy man, so then he finds time to attend this wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir. Let me, do you have any last word for our audience?
Nah, thank you so much, guys, for engaging. If public interest security is something that takes your fancy, you can reach out to me. Reach out to me probably on LinkedIn or something. We could talk about that more. But I just want to say thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Joshua. I have some friends on the call that I want to mention. Elizabeth, of course, my best friend. Thank you so much. I have Tata Derek. Tata Derek is a pen tester. He's a Cameroonian, and we're currently engaging him to do some really important piece of work in Central Africa in the area of public interest security. So again, there's where this is important. So he's already doing like really amazing work in pen testing and understanding security and building security professionals. But we're able to then build on top of that. So just adding public interest to it is very simple, right? So that's again just emphasizing the fact that you need to get your hands dirty. You need to be able to understand like basic concept and be able to do like basic security, and then you can put public interest on top of it. But I'm grateful to Tata Derek for joining this call. I also have Nancy Murithi on the call. Nancy is joining this call from Kenya. Nancy is a friend in the space. She's helping us do some really important work in Kenya, and I really, really appreciate the fact that you took the time to join this conversation. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Joshua, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So check out our LinkedIn our LinkedIn page for more information. You can reach us on diarybackers@gmail.com. You can check us on YouTube, on Twitter. We have a Telegram group, and if you want to join the community, go to the website diarybackers.com. Then you will be directed to fill the voting list form. Thank you, everybody. And see you next time. Bye.